Alright, hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to show you all how I melt chocolate today. So when I melt chocolate, I usually am dipping strawberries or cake pops or something like that. I have some candy melts here. These are Wilton candy melts. I had these for a while, so I hope they melt fine, but blue is a difficult color for me, but I am going to show you how I melt them down. I usually don't add anything to thin them out. So I'll be melting down this blue today, this orange Wilton candy melt, and then I have a few pieces of almond bark. Almond bark is the most simple to melt down, so I'm going to do that first just to show you. So I have these glass bowls here, which I prefer to use to melt down my chocolate because they are very small and the heat is evenly distributed. So I'm just going to combine this piece of milk chocolate and white chocolate. And I'm going to microwave it for about 30 seconds and then it will be all melted. So pop that in. I have a button where I can just hit 30 seconds and it'll go. So like I said, almond bark is fairly easy to melt. You don't have to do a lot of the primping that you need to do with the candy melts. So that's why I'm going to show you this one first. And I just have an apple stick here that I'm going to use just to stir the chocolate. So this is about to stop. So this is what it looks like after 30 seconds. So I'm going to stir it. And as you can see, it is already starting to melt. Okay. So just make sure you stir it really well and then pop it back in. Now, I'm going to put it on another 30 seconds, but it will not need the entire time. So I'll probably let it go for at least 15 to 20 seconds, and then I will take it back out. So I'm going to stop it at the 15-minute mark and see if it's melted down. So stir it really well. You want to make sure you stir it well because even when it has chunks in it, if you continue to stir, the chocolate will break down. So I'm just going to keep stirring to see if I can break down these chunks in the chocolate. Okay. So as you can see, if you just keep stirring, the chocolate will be completely melted. And this is important because you don't want to overheat your chocolate. If you overheat your chocolate, it'll give it a dull color and it messes up the consistency. So like I said, with candy melts, it's much more important that you don't overheat because if you mess up the consistency of the candy melts, you will not be able to use them unless you add like oil or a thinning agent or coconut oil or something like that. But as you can see, I just kept stirring this and now it is perfectly melted. So I didn't have to put it back in again. I just kept stirring it and it broke down those chunks of white chocolate. So that's very important. You have to stir your chocolate thoroughly so that it melts, okay? Don't overheat it because it will not work out good for you. So that chocolate is nice and melted down and you can use this for dipping or whatever, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how I will melt these orange candy melts. So I've had these, I think I had these last Easter. So I'm just using what I have open for this demo. So I'm going to pour this in this container. So I just poured the rest of the bag in there. And what I'm going to do now is show you the defrost method. Now this method I absolutely hate because it takes so long, okay? So you hit your, you set your microwave for time defrost, and then you do 30 seconds. Okay? Then you pop it in there and let it go. Now this takes the wattage of your microwave and brings it down by 50%. So this helps increase your chances of not burning your chocolate or overheating your chocolate. So this really is a really good method. It just takes so long, and you'll see. So this is our first 30-second round on defrost. And when I take it out to stir it, you'll see that it looks like absolutely no change. They're still hard. I'm just going to spin them around really good, but it's really no change, okay? So they look exactly how they looked when I put them in the first time. So I'm going to pop them in again. Time defrost, 30 seconds again. So I'm going to repeat this process until my candy melts are melted. The reason I don't prefer this one is because it takes so much longer than just a regular microwave method. But you cannot treat candy melts the same way you treat almond bark, okay? Almond bark melts much easier, and you don't really have a risk of overheating it. But with candy melts, there's a higher chance that you will overheat them, okay? So I'll take this out again, and it's still really no change. So I'm just going to mix it up, put it back in there on defrost. 30 seconds. Time defrost, 30 seconds, start. So I'm going to just repeat this process until the candy melts are melted in the consistency that I want. I don't really use this method because it takes so long, so I honestly can't even tell you how many times I'm going to have to put it in here. But this is the third time that it has been in for 30 seconds. Alright, let's see what's going on. So it's starting to slightly melt, like very, very slightly. I don't know if you can see that, but very slightly it's starting to melt, but still not much progress. But you still want to make sure you move everything around. You don't want anything stuck to the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to pop this back in for the fourth time on defrost, 30 seconds. My milk chocolate is still doing good over here. I mixed the milk with the white. I love using almond bark because it's just so easy to melt down and it's kind of foolproof. But when people want certain colors, it's easier to use candy melts than for me to dye the chocolate. You can dye the chocolate, but it's a different process, and I normally don't do that. So I think this is the fifth round in the microwave on defrost. So I'm going to move it around some. And it is beginning to melt. But like I said, this is a very, very, very slow process. So this is how it's looking. It's starting to melt down, but it's not, of course, it's not where we want it. So this is the 6th time that it will be going in on defrost. 30 seconds. So we have these 6 rounds of 30 seconds on defrost. So I'm going to mix this up, and it is still not melted down, but it is beginning to melt very slowly. So you just want to mix it up and make sure everything is nice and incorporated. Nothing is sticking to the bottom, because you do want the heat to be evenly distributed. So I'm just going to mix this up really well, and then pop it back in for its 7th round of 30 seconds on defrost. So this is the 7th round, and this is taking a very long time. As you see, I do not use this method, especially when you have like a lot of colors and you're trying to melt stuff down quickly. This is not the way to go. So this is the 7th round right here. Okay, so it's starting to look a little better. So it looks like if I stir it good, I might get a lot melted down. So let me give it a really good stir. It's starting to get together. So this is after the 7th round of 30 seconds on defrost. Okay. So the end is near. I can tell it's getting there. As you can see, it's starting to come together, okay? We probably will only need 1 or 2 more rounds of heating. Probably 1. Because it's pretty much melted down at this point. But you do not want to overheat it. You just want to keep stirring it to make it smoother, okay? So I'm going to try 1 more round. This will be the 8th round of defrost on 30 seconds. Okay, so these are my results after warming it at 50% on defrost for 30 seconds, okay? So I did 8 increments of 8 30-second increments of heating to melt this chocolate down. And it is melted perfectly. You don't need to add any thinning agent. You don't need to add any cooking oil, vegetable oil, coconut oil. You don't have to add anything. If you melt your chocolate correctly, you don't need anything to thin it out. Okay? So I'm just going to mix this really well because I see a little wafer in here that's not completely melted. So just mix it very well. And as you can see, my chocolate is perfect, okay? But this method is very time consuming. You have to literally heat it for 30-second increments 8 times. And you have to stir after each 30-second increment. So it does take a while, okay? So I kind of found a method that is in between. What I do is take my candy melts, put them in my bowl. And I'll just use the rest of these, okay? And I will start them on defrost. So I do 2 rounds of defrost for 30 seconds, okay? So I'm going to time defrost 30 seconds. And I'm going to do this twice, okay? I'm just going to use this stirrer because I'm not using this chocolate for anything but for demonstration purposes. So I don't care about cross-contaminated. But if I was using this to dip or make strawberries or something, I would have, each one will have its own stirrer. Okay. But as you see, this chocolate is perfect. You don't have to add anything. You don't have to thin it out. You don't need to put any coconut oil or anything, okay? As long as you melt it correctly, you don't have to add anything to it, okay? Because once you start adding all this stuff, it really does affect the flavor of the chocolate, and you don't really want to do that. So yes, this orange is melted down perfectly, okay? Nice and smooth. Now let's check in on these blue melts. So these I went in for 1 round, 30 seconds on defrost. So I'm going to put them in for another round of 30 seconds on defrost. So time defrost, 30 seconds, start. So I'll let that go, and that'll be my last round of defrost. I don't have the energy to go through 8 rounds of defrost each time I'm trying to melt a little bowl of chocolate. I just don't. Now, if you do, then you can use the method that I use with the orange. But if you don't really have the time to do all of that, then you can use the method that I'm going to show you now. Okay, so I always start with the 2 rounds of defrost though for 30 seconds. Okay, just mix that all up. Then I'm just going to go to regular power. But instead of 30-second increments, I'm going to do 15 seconds. But I'm still going to hit my 30-second starter. And I'm just going to pull it out when it hits that 15-minute mark. (15-second mark). Sorry, not 15 minutes. So 17, 16, 15. So pull it out now. And I'm going to mix it up very well. I noticed that putting it in for 30 seconds, that's letting it go for too long before you stir it up. So that's why I let it go for 15 seconds on regular power and make sure I mix it up really, really well. And it's already starting to melt down. Okay? So this is what it looks like after 2 sessions of defrost and 15 seconds at regular power. I'm going to pop that back in and let it finish going for the 15 seconds on regular power. Okay, so this is another 15 seconds on regular power, and as you see, it is already starting to melt down. So you want to give it a very, very good stir, because this is the time when you're going to really get that consistency going, because the bowl is hot now, the melts are heated, and they just need a lot of stirring to get them to break down. And this does not look like navy blue. This looks like purple. But hey, whatever. It's purple, I guess. So as you see, I've stirred this really good. And it's starting to melt down really, really well. This will not even need another 30 seconds. This will only need 15 seconds at regular power, and it'll be done. So as you see, this is already starting to melt down a lot. So that's why you want to make sure you stir it really well, because when you stir it, that really helps it to break down. So I'm going to set this for 15 seconds. And then it'll be all done. So this method is much faster. You still start with 2 defrosts, but then you only have to heat it for additional 45 seconds at regular heat in 15-minute increments. So This is how it's looking. We did defrost twice for 30 seconds and we stirred it in between. Then we did 3 15-second increments and make sure we stirred it in between. And we have perfectly melted purple chocolate. Okay? The problem a lot of people have with these candy melts is that they are overheating them. So when you overheat them, they start to seize. Also, if you get water in the chocolate, it will seize. Okay? But you see, I didn't add any oil. I didn't add any coconut oil. I didn't add any thinning agent. I didn't add anything to help melt this chocolate and to help it be smooth. And as you can see, it's ready for dipping strawberries, for drizzling on Rice Krispie treats, for making chocolate covered Oreos, for whatever you need. And you see my orange is still at a great consistency. So I hope this video helps everyone who is having trouble melting their chocolate. And if you have any questions, please leave them down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I definitely appreciate it.